طيب. Now let's continue with module number 2. What is Information Security Management Systems? What is ISMS? Information Security Management, it's a systematic approach for managing and protecting organization information. Gentlemen, just I want to concentrate on something here. When we are saying ISMS, this is not, we are saying ISO. It is not a document where you will find some explanations or requirements or whatever. ISMS, or Information Security Management System, it's an approach, it's a way, it's a methodology where you can manage and protect your organization. There is nothing to tell you, show me your ISMS. The ISMS, it has some components which it will help you to manage and protect the organization, security or information security. What are these components? Number one, policies, standards, and procedures. You have to define what are the intent of the organization for the security, what are security requirements, and how we can configure these requirements on the devices. Also, you must have other documentation which it will help in the security rules. It may be guidelines, it may be rules and responsibilities for security people or for other users or whatever. Then there are some other documents which it will help in the protection of the data and the managing of the data as well. Then you will find other technical and other type of controls. Let me ask you a question here, gentlemen. And I hope that you will share your opinion with me. When we say control, control means that a way to protect against a risk or against any attack. Do you think that we have only technical controls, technical control like a firewall, like IPS, like VPN, and so on? Do you think that the controls which we are using to protect our data, it's only control, technical controls, or do we have other type of controls as well? What do you think?
I think protect data maybe regarding to database also you can use in protecting data, I think. By encrypting data in database.
Type encryption, it's a technical control.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other type of controls? Do we have any other type of techniques for protecting and managing our data?
I think I think it could be a physical control.
Okay, we have physical control. This is a good answer. What else? That's good. I hope that we start to give our feedbacks. What else?
Access control management, where
access control management. Access control management, it's technical again.
Yes. Like what is in Windows, where users can access an object or the information or the privilege that they can perform on the object, like edit or view.
Okay, yani again, what you are mentioning is technical.
Yes.
Okay. Look, gentlemen, the controls, we have two types of classification of controls: architectural controls and functional controls. Architectural controls, it can be technical, it can be administrative, or managerial, and it can be physical. Technical, this is the one which we know it. Technical, it may be firewall, maybe IPsec, it may be switch, it may be antivirus, vulnerability scanning, whatever. Administrative or managerial, these are the techniques which are used based on the organization. For example, segregation of duties, that if there is some tasks which are critical, then I will not let one person only to do it. I will, for example, let two persons to work together to do it. As someone he wants to open a lock, then this lock, which contains some assets or valuable assets, I have two keys, one key with each one. Then this is considered segregation of duties, for example. Or need to know. What do you mean by need to know? The required information which you want to know to process your work. Or mandatory vacation, that you will force person to go on vacation when someone he will take over, and if there is any problem in his position, then he will be able to discover these problems when he will hand over the responsibilities to him. These are considered as administrative. Or you can use a password with 8 characters and so on. Physical, this is considered as the physical security controls. You can have access control over the door, you can have a fence, you can have light, you can have AC, you can have power supply, you can have UPS, which usually we are concerned on the data center facilities. Okay, this is the type of the security controls from architecture point of view. For functional, we have prevent, detect, deter, discover, and compensate. Prevent, this is a control which it will prevent the risk. It will prevent the error from happening from scratch. Detect, that it will discover or it will detect that there is a problem happen. Deter, that it will send an aggressive note to the user that he is not allowed to do this or that. For example, he gets a screen, you are not allowed to log into this screen, please log out, otherwise you will be violating a security policy. Discover, that it will discover whatever any problem. And compensate, this we will discuss this later because it's a little bit complicated. And these are the type of the security controls. The point which I want to highlight here, that when we say security controls, gentlemen, when we are working with ISO 27001, please don't think technical. Don't think technical only, because technical, it is one of the points. As you can see, it is only one of the points. Here, the technical. But we have administrative, we have managerial, we have physical. When the ISO, it's not concerning only on the technical protection, concerning on a lot of other ways which we will discover during the next 2 days.
Sorry,
Okay?
Osama. I'm sorry, Osama.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I can't get the point of what is the difference between detect and discover. Yeah, detect is detecting if something happened, and discover is the same, or is there another meaning for discover?
Prevent, detect, deter. No, you are right. You are right. No, it's not. Forget about discover. You are right. In some terms we call it detect, and some others call it discover.
Oh yes. This is okay now. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I will share my screen again. Can you see the screen, the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. As I mentioned, gentlemen, that in the ISO 27001, we are not speaking about only digital data. We are speaking about any form of the data. It may be written on a paper, may be spoken, may be saved in a log, whatever. Then the ISO 27001. What is the main objective of ISO 27001? Manage and protect information, organization of information, right? Because the information is considered as an asset. When the ISMS, it is not only concerning about digital format. No, it is looking for other format as well. It may be, as we mentioned, paper or spoken or whatever. Here you can say that if you want to create your own ISMS, what do you require? You have to understand what are the policies, procedures, standards, and any other security document in your organization. You have to understand the organization mission, objectives, goals, processes, and activities. Make a risk assessment. Then finally, you will understand the security controls required and implementation. Then you will be able to monitor and report for the effectiveness of these controls. This is the process. This is a proper process which you have to think when you work with ISMS and ISO. You have to understand the policy and procedure and standards. You have to understand the organizational mission, objectives, and goals. Make risk assessment based on this information which are collected in these 3 steps. You can get the security controls for the risks, and you can monitor the effectiveness of the risk controls. My question here, why do we need to understand organization mission, objectives, goals, processes, and activities? What is the benefit of this step? To understand policy, procedure, standards makes sense. I want to understand what is the concept of the security in my organization. Risk assessment, okay, I want to understand what are the risks which it face my organization. But why do I want to understand the organization mission, objectives, goals, and processes in this step? What do you think?
This is Adnan speaking. So basically, we are eventually doing all this for organization. So if we have organization that is a trust organization, the goals or objectives are different, and the maybe activities are different, the information is different. So we need to understand it first, and then we can look for and create the other policies, procedures, and standards accordingly.
Perfect. But my question, Adnan, what will be the difference between one organization and the other? If I understood the mission, objectives, goals, and processes, what will be the difference? Why do I have to go to this business area and understand it? Although it will represent a challenge for us as a technical people, but it's very important. Why? Why I have to go through this step?
So that we don't go in the wrong direction, we don't invest in the wrong security controls.
Sorry, can you repeat this again, please?
So basically, we evaluate all this so that we don't go into the wrong direction, we don't invest in the wrong controls or people.
You are very close, Adnan. You are very close.
In other words, we have to ensure the alignment.
To what?
To ensure the alignment of our procedure and all of the stuff that we are having aligned with the organization objectives and goals.
Okay. The main objective here, gentlemen, as Adnan mentioned, we don't want to waste our resources. Okay, but we don't want to waste it for what? We have to understand the mission, objectives, goals, processes, and activities to understand what are our assets. Don't forget, gentlemen, ISO, it's working for assets. I want to understand my asset. As you can remember in the previous session, we mentioned that the asset, it's a tangible or intangible something which has a value for the organization. It can be a process, it can be activity, it can be patient, it can whatever. When I want to understand the objectives, the goal, processes, activities, services, locations, all this information, it will provide me with a list of the assets. And when I say asset, this means that I will understand the value of the asset. Then whatever any critical assets, I have to concentrate on these critical assets to protect them. I don't want to waste my resources, as Adnan said, to protect whatever any assets which are not important. I want to understand the organization business objectives to find out the assets and what are critical assets, then I will be able to protect it and utilize my resources in protecting these assets. Do you get the point? Hello?
Yes, Abu Yahya.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. What about the others? I can see Ashraf, Adnan, Wael, we are communicating and sharing. What about the others?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. This is the most important thing, gentlemen. This is a concept which I want you to keep it in your mind. By the way, this is the secret key. Assets is a secret key, which you will find it's very important when you will study the next courses for lead implementer or lead auditor or whatever. This is the secret key. Why? Because if you know what is the objective, what is the target, it will be very easy to you to know what is the objective of the ISO and what are the requirements to be compliant with this standard of ISO 27001. Okay. In ISMS documentation, what do you require in ISMS documentation? Of course, you need policies, you need standards, you need requirements, you need rules and responsibilities, you need configuration, you need a lot of documents. But what are the factors which control the documentation? Because it's nonsense if I have an organization consists of 10 persons to have 1,000 documents. It's nonsense. If it's an enterprise organization, then it makes sense that I can have hundreds of documentation. Then what are the factors which it will help me here to define if we require these documents or not? Number one, whatever any standard requirements. Suppose that you are implementing ISO 27001, then in ISO 27001 requirements, it will tell you that these requirements or these documents are required. I want the external inspector, he will come and tell you, please show me these documents. And we will have some slides speaking about this mandatory documentation for the ISO. Then if you are implementing any standard as ISO 27001, PCI, HEBA, HIBAA, whatever it is, then whatever any documents required by these standards, you have to apply and keep a copy of it. Then when the external auditor, he will come, he will see these standards. Tell me, gentlemen, do you know some type of standards? Do you know some type of standards? Do you know any security type of standard? Yani, for example, we have ISO 27001. What else? Give me any other standard which you work with or you know about it.
It's about security only, or any
Yeah.
standard you mean?
No, security. You have PC here. Tell me. Any idea?
NIST, National Institute of Standards.
You mean NEST?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, NEST. Okay, that's good. Did you hear about HIPAA? This is standard for health, dealing with health information in America. Dealing with health information in America. And by the way, NEST, it's applied in America also. It's in America. ISO, it's worldwide. NEST, it's in America. You have BCI.
BCI DSS.
In America, sorry, worldwide. And this, if you want to deal with the credit card payments, these are the standards. These standards, usually they will define some required documentation and some security controls, some specific documentation and some security controls. We will go through the ISO 27001 documentation and controls through this course. Okay? Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The second factor, which it depends or it will affect the number of documentation required in any organization, it will be the results of risk assessment. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will discuss risk assessment in some more details. Size of the organization. As we mentioned, if you have an organization which consists of 10 users, then it's nonsense that you have documentation of 100 documents. But if you have an organization which it has 50,000 users, for example, then it makes sense that you have 1,000 documents. And finally, the complexity of the processes and activities. If you are working in a manufacturing company and we have processes and activities for developing some product or services, then this means that this process, it can be complex and or complicated, and you need a lot of documentation to make life easy and to explain everything to your users or the operation team and this stuff. And these are the factors which it will control how the size of the documentation, it should be managed in any information security management systems, in management security systems. Although we have these factors, but as you will see today and in the next 2 days, we will say, okay, ISO 27001 does not mandate that this should be documented. But if you have this document, it will be better for the following reasons. And we will discuss this in more details in the next few slides. Okay. Do you know what is this, gentlemen? What is this diagram? What does it mean, or what is the name of this diagram? Any answer? Anyone who is working in processes, he must be familiar with this diagram. This, it has two definitions. What are they?
Quality. This is for quality. Quality management.
It's a quality management, okay, but what is exactly the name of this cycle?
Could be
Okay, it's controlling the quality.
process management.
No.
It has different names, Abu Yahya. I remember it is, for example, it's called the BDCA. BDCA process.
Definition number one, BDCA, and it's coming BDCA from first letter B, D, C, and A. Right. What is the second?
It is mainly for continuing improving the environment or the process that you are working on it.
That's right. And what is the second name?
I'm trying to remember. It's called dilemma, I think, or
Deming cycle.
Dining cycle. Yes, right.
Yeah, Deming cycle. When this, gentlemen, you will find it not in ISO. This, if you will work in IT, this it will be, or even quality. If you are interested in the future to identify ISO 9001 or 9002 or whatever, this it will be a part of your life. Quality control, as one of your colleagues he mentioned now, and this is called BDCA or Deming cycle, and this it will be a part of your life. And as you will see that next courses for the ISO implementation and ISO auditing, the concept or the principles which the course will be built on, it will be the BDCA cycle. Okay, what is the BDCA cycle? Sure.
Here, this is common use in all standard procedure. Procedure, for example, the item. It is one depending on this kind of cycle for continual improvement, as well as for the BMB as well. This is one of the things that it is used as a tool for improving and keeping your process in continual improvement state.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Wael. That's right. Because by the end of the day, gentlemen, this is control your quality. It will control your quality. Then even if you are speaking about ITIL concept for service continual improvement, or if you are speaking about projects because you want the continuous improvement of a project till it will be finished, or whatever, any quality control, this it will consider the BDCA, and this it will be the concept for whatever any process which you will work in. Because of that, I told you, if you will work in our field, you will hear about this cycle many times in your life, in projects, in services, in security, and so on. Okay, what is the ISMS process? What is the BDCA? BDCA is very simple. You have first to plan. You have to define your objectives. You have to define your processes. You have to define your goals and what are the expected or required results. This is the plan phase or the design phase. Then, after you define the objectives, you define what are the requirements, you have to work, you have to do, you have to implement your design in the do phase. After you complete the implementation in the do phase, you have to check it. You have to check what did you did. If it's matching your required results, is it matching your objectives? If it's matching your objectives, great. This, you achieved what is required from you. But if it's not, then this means that you have to make some improvement. You have to check, make a gap analysis between the results which you got from the do phase and compare it with the required results from the plan phase, and check what is the gap and how you can improve these results to cover all the required results which are created in the plan phase. Okay? Is it clear?
Clear.
Any questions?